You spent 11 months building something nobody wanted. Sit with that sentence, because statistically, that's exactly what's happening right now if you're working on a product, a side project, or a startup without validated demand. Here's the math that should terrify you. CB Insights analyzed over 1,000 failed startups. The number one cause of death, 42%, was no market need. Not bad code, not lack of funding. They built something the world didn't ask for. And here's the paradox that will wreck you if you don't understand it. The effort paradox. The harder you work in isolation, the further you drift from what actually works. More effort, worse outcomes. The relationship is inverse. Eric Ries wrote The Lean Startup to solve one brutal problem. How do you build something people actually want before you run out of time, money, and sanity? This is not a business book. This is an operating system for navigating uncertainty. And if you're between 25 and 35, operating in a world where career paths are non-linear and side projects are survival strategies, this book isn't optional reading. It's infrastructure. Like and save this video. The concepts here are worth revisiting when you feel stuck. Here's the default script most ambitious people are running. I have a great idea. I need to build it perfectly. Then I'll launch it. Then people will come. That script is a death sentence. Most people believe execution means building. Eric Ries proves execution means learning. Let me reframe this with an analogy that will permanently change how you think about startups, projects, and even career moves. Imagine two people trying to cross a dark, unfamiliar room to reach a door on the other side. Person A, let's call them the architect, stands at the entrance, spends 6 months drafting a detailed blueprint of the room based on assumptions, then sprints forward with eyes closed. Person B, the navigator, takes 1 step, reaches out, touches what's around them, adjusts direction, takes another step, reaches out again, adjusts again. Person A runs face first into a wall. Person B reaches the door in 12 minutes. This is the central cognitive pivot of the lean startup. You are not in the business of building products. You are in the business of navigating uncertainty through structured contact with reality. Ries calls this validated learning. Not learning as in reading articles, not learning as in, I feel like I understand my customer. Validated learning means you ran an experiment, collected measurable evidence, and now possess proof, not opinion, about what works. The conventional business plan is the architect's blueprint. It feels productive. It looks impressive. Investors like the font choices. But it is a fantasy document, a fiction written in a vacuum and presented as prophecy. The lean startup replaces the business plan with a scientific method. Hypothesis, experiment, evidence, pivot, or persevere. And here's what makes this so dangerous to ignore. The market does not care about your vision. The market is a feedback machine. You either plug into it early or you build a beautiful product that dies in silence. The navigator wins, not because they're smarter. They win because they make contact with reality faster and more often than the architect ever will. Now, let's get mechanical. The lean startup runs on one engine. Ries calls it the build, measure, learn feedback loop. This is the core operating loop. Everything else in the book is a component of this cycle. Here's how it works structurally. Phase 1. Build. But not what you think. You don't build the product. You build the smallest possible version of the product that tests your riskiest assumption. Ries calls this the minimum viable product, MVP. The MVP is not a prototype. It is not a beta version. It is the cheapest experiment that produces validated learning. Let me make this concrete. Drew Houston, founder of Dropbox, didn't build cloud storage software to test demand. He made a 3-minute video showing how the product would work. The waiting list went from 5,000 to 75,000 overnight. That video was the MVP, not the software, the video. Phase 2. Measure. And this is where most people collapse into vanity. Ries introduces a critical distinction: vanity metrics versus actionable metrics. Vanity metrics are total page views, total downloads, total sign-ups. They go up and to the right, and they tell you absolutely nothing about causality. Actionable metrics answer one question: did a specific change in our product cause a specific change in customer behavior? Here's the formula Ries uses to structure measurement. Innovation accounting. It works in 3 steps. Step 1. Establish a baseline by shipping an MVP and measuring where customers actually are, not where you hope they are. Step 2. Tune the engine. Run experiments to move real metrics from the baseline toward the ideal. Step 3. The decision point. Are the experiments moving the needle? If yes, persevere. If no, pivot. Phase 3. Learn. And here's the rule that makes this loop lethal. Total loop speed. Competitive advantage. The startup that completes this loop fastest wins. Not the one with the most money. Not the one with the best engineers. The one that learns fastest. Ries gives a benchmark. At IMVU, his own startup, they eventually shorten this loop to weeks. Some teams run it in days. If your loop takes 6 months, you get 2 data points per year. If your competitor runs it weekly, they get 52. You're bringing a slingshot to a data war. That's not a slight disadvantage. That's extinction. You now understand the loop. You see the math. You know that speed of learning beats quality of guessing. And you will still not do it. Here's why. Trap number 1. The completion bias. Your brain rewards you for finishing things, not for learning things. Shipping a polished product feels like progress. Shipping an ugly MVP that tests one hypothesis feels like failure. Your neurology is lying to you. Completion without validation is just organized waste. Trap number 2. The sunk cost fortress. You've spent 4 months and $12,000 building features. Someone suggests the core assumption might be wrong. Your brain doesn't hear, "Let's test it." Your brain hears everything you've done is worthless. So you defend, you rationalize, you add more features instead of questioning the foundation. Ries calls this the moment you need to pivot. Your ego calls it the moment you need to double down. Your ego is wrong. Trap number 3. The noise cost. You're drowning in feedback. User reviews, mentor opinions, competitor moves, Twitter threads, podcast advice. Most of it is noise. And noise has a cost. It delays the one experiment that would actually give you a signal. Every hour you spend consuming unstructured input is an hour you didn't spend running the build, measure, learn loop. Trap number 4. The repetition trap. You run one experiment, it doesn't work, and you go back to building in isolation. One failed test is not data. It's an anecdote. The system only works through repetition. Rapid, disciplined, emotionally uncomfortable repetition. Recognize yourself in any of these? Good. That's the first real data point you've collected today. Theory is debt. Execution is equity. Here are 4 actions. This week, not someday. Step 1. Kill your idea and write the hypothesis. What to do? Open a blank document. Google Docs, Notion, a napkin, it doesn't matter. Write this sentence and fill in the blanks. I believe specific customer segment will specific behavior because specific reason. I will know this is true when measurable outcome happens within time frame. Spend 30 minutes, no more. One hypothesis, not a business plan, not a mission statement. Why it works. You cannot test what you haven't articulated, and the act of writing forces precision that your brain actively resists. Step 2. Build a 48-hour MVP. What to do? Using only tools you already have. Canva for a landing page, Google Forms for a survey, Card.co for a $5 single-page website, or Loom for a 3-minute demo video. Build the cheapest possible artifact that tests your hypothesis. Budget: $0 to $10. Time: no more than 48 hours. If it takes longer, you're building a product, not an experiment. Why it works. Constraints force contact with reality. The MVP isn't the product. It's the question you're asking the market. Step 3. Run a smoke test with 20 real humans. What to do? Share your MVP with exactly 20 people who match your target customer. Not friends, not family. Use Reddit communities, relevant Facebook groups, LinkedIn outreach, or even cold DMs on Twitter, X. Track 2 specific numbers. How many people engaged and how many took the action your hypothesis predicted. Log results in a simple spreadsheet. Why it works. 20 is the minimum sample where patterns begin to emerge and randomness starts to fade. It's the cheapest statistically meaningful signal you can generate. Step 4. Schedule your pivot or persevere meeting. What to do? Put a 30-minute calendar block exactly 7 days from today. Label it Evidence Review. In that meeting, even if it's just you, answer 3 questions. 1. What did I expect to happen? 2. What actually happened? 3. Based on evidence, do I iterate on this path or fundamentally change direction? Use the Notion template, Lean Experiment Tracker, or build a simple one in Google Sheets with columns for hypothesis, experiment, prediction, result, and decision. Why it works. Without a forcing function, you will unconsciously avoid the moment of truth. This meeting is the structural mechanism that separates operators from dreamers. Here's the insight that changes everything, and it's not about startups. The Lean Startup is a book about the relationship between human beings and uncertainty, and that relationship defines your entire economic life, your career, your investments, your side projects, your decisions about where to spend the next 5 years of irreplaceable time. Most people treat uncertainty like an enemy to be eliminated through planning. Ries treats uncertainty like a landscape to be navigated through experimentation. That distinction is not semantic. It is the difference between spending 3 years perfecting a resume for an industry that's about to be automated and spending 3 weeks testing whether a new skill actually generates demand in the real market. The people who will dominate the next decade are not the ones with the best plans. They're the ones with the fastest feedback loops. They make contact with reality more frequently, more honestly, and more cheaply than everyone around them. They treat every assumption as a hypothesis and every week as a cycle. You now have the architecture, the loop, the traps, the actions. The only variable left is whether you'll use it or file it under Interesting Things I Watched Once. Save this video. Come back to it. Most people will watch this once and return to their buckets.